I remember about 3 months in, hey, Danielle, like, when are we going to see changes? And then they did. It happened so fast. And then the next 2 months, like we went from the rashes and it's like the back of the knees. But within those last 2 months, it was just like night and day. Like it just started, all the work that we had done just started to come out onto the surface.
Hello, we have Zoe with us today, and this is Luca's mama. And I'm really, really, really excited to have this conversation because this is our first interview with a family that's been through our kids program. And I had been asked hundreds, probably thousands of times, do you work with kids with eczema? And for 7 years, we just focused on adults just because it's a different process and it's multifactorial dealing with a parent and a child because it is so difficult. And then I think it was also my journey into becoming a mama and understanding just how hard it is just going through that phase in and out of itself, plus also having rashes and also me just knowing that there's so much that you can do. So I'm super, super, super excited, just to be announcing that, but then also to have you here, Zoe, because you have a very classic journey with little Luca's eczema. And I think it's going to be really, really helpful for other moms just to hear what you've tried. I mean, you went to the very end, like you were just in it with the research and trying all the things. And then also what we did in the program, some of the root causes, and also some helpful tips that helped little Luca and you as a family as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to join and to talk about Luca's journey because I think it's really important, like you said, to share the knowledge.
Yeah. All right. So let's rewind and just talk about Luca's journey with eczema from when he was born.
Yeah, so Luca was like your typical birth because really what I've learned is like eczema starts with mom. So mom's health, how the pregnancy goes, and I truly like I didn't really have any complications. It was kind of a shock to as like a first time mom too, because you're kind of in the trenches. You're learning how to be a mom, like you said. You just became a mom and you don't know how to care for this little baby, and suddenly like your world is turned upside down. And when Luca was born, everything was kind of typical. Like the labor was typical, the birth experience was typical. Everything just felt like textbook, right? In the first few weeks, though, we noticed he's crying a lot. I wonder what that's about. Like he has colic. We went to several professionals. They're like, he just has colic. And we're like, okay, what does that even mean? What is colic? And at first, that's kind of what it started as. It was just he was crying a lot, right? And he wouldn't sleep at night. He would cry and he was obviously uncomfortable. And then we go to our 2 month appointment for him and he receives his first vaccines. And we come home and like quite literally the next day, I think it was like even that night, he just breaks out into a full body eczema rash, just like little red dots everywhere, super red, so crying, so uncomfortable. And like his cry, even when he's like upset about something, it's so loud. I'm like, oh my God, the neighbors are going to hear. He just has that kind of yell cry, which like we've had another boy since then, and he does not cry. So I know he's just a very loud, expressive child, but he broke out into this rash, and we're like, this is not normal. This is something's going on here. And ever since those 2 month vaccines or like his 2 month appointment, it's just been back and forth with managing his eczema. So he would flare a bit, it would come down. We would see like a dermatologist or whatever, and they would prescribe your typical like steroid cream or whatever. We've tried like quite literally every cream on the market. We've tried like the dengue moisturizers in combination with the steroid, in combination with the antibiotic topical. And so it was just like managing. And that whole year was difficult because he was uncomfortable and he had like, there was like there was a picture of the side of his face that was later, but he had an actually even worse rash where it was like open and weeping when he was around like 5 months. And it just took us almost like a month to manage that because it was just completely open, right? Like it's just weeping. And unfortunately, I didn't really understand how his eczema was, how his gut and his gut integrity was lost when he had those like weeping sores. And
Mm.
I was given the advice, just like most moms probably are, that give him allergens so that he like doesn't end up allergic later on. And unfortunately I did those things, and he has so many food allergies too. It was just like that first year was so difficult because there was so much going on with like his immune system and his gut and everything that like we didn't understand. All we could see was those like rashes and the discomfort, like the sores and stuff. And we just didn't know, like it was just survival, like day to day survival. And it was just a new problem like every single day. And it was sad because we couldn't enjoy our baby. Like we were just trying to solve, like we were just trying to make him feel better, and we couldn't do it. And it was quite a difficult year.
Yeah.
Around one though, he started getting better. And we thought like it was because we took him to new places, and he spent a lot of time outside and all this stuff, which now we know probably did help, but again, was not really solving his root issues.
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about it later. We'll get into that, but it was helping. And we were like, oh, every time we'd go somewhere, it'd be like, oh, miraculously, he's better. Like he's better, and it's going to go away. He's growing up.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of parents have that hope too. It's just, oh, he'll grow out of it. But it's not quite how it works. Every time we would run into a new rash here and there. And then around 2, which is when Luca's brother was born, he literally like a month later. So like we're in the trenches with the newborn, where we wake up and he's flaring. And we're like, okay, here we go again, right? And then he just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And every day, like what we thought was, okay, like we'll just manage it with a little bit of steroids. Or it spreads. It goes to his neck. It goes to his jawline. His hands are weeping to the point where we can't send him to school anymore. He can't, because he's wearing these like gloves, and he can't do things at school. He's frustrated. He's taking them off. He's scratching his hands open. They're just eating there. The school's calling. He's like, you got to pick him up. He's going to get infected. Like it's a disaster. Like it's just a disaster. And then I find the program, and that's kind of when we joined at that point. So yeah.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So for all the people that are joined right now, do we have any parents? And do we have any moms or dads that have kids with eczema? Because when you're telling me that story, I mean, just like the little pieces that resonated, like Billy's cry, he had a rash for a week, but I still remember the terror cry from that. And like when you said it, I got a feel I had the nervous system recall. Because it is hard. And what was that like for you as a family, for you and your husband?
I mean, you're not sleeping, right? Like and then like you start breaking down because like all of we have our own lifestyle rituals and needs and things that we do, right? And everything starts breaking down, right? You don't even get to shower. Scrambling, surviving, and trying to I was obsessed with just doing like research every day. I'm like, what else haven't I tried? And then it was like red light. We bought the red light device, and we're shining it on his hands every day. And it's not helping. And you're just like, why? And then you're like, I read that this is supposed to help. And then it's like, okay, let's get him on some probiotics. And we did get a naturopath who started to help us, I guess, like explained like the histamine and the like a little bit of the gut. And we did like a liver cleanse with her, which I think for kids is like just a little bit, it's like too much. It's like we started doing some things that like were, I feel like, too aggressive for him, which probably made things worse for him.
Yeah.
And it was just like a throw everything you can, like throw everything at his eczema and see if it sticks kind of thing. And it did, right? Like, it again wasn't solving his root problem. Like we weren't understanding how to truly support him. We were just like throwing every random ball at it and seeing if it stuck.
I mean, there's just so many layers of difficulty there because first time parents, like that in itself, I remember walking out of the hospital being like, can I just walk out with my baby? Like, is this okay? Like, I don't know what to do. So it's just like the unknown with that piece of it. And then it's just a change in life, and you have all these chemical, emotional, hormone changes yourself. And then you have relational dynamics that change. And then also on top of that, dealing with eczema. And as any eczema warriors here that have been through it, you know that like you're just trying to grasp at anything that will work. And yeah, like exactly. Up at night, researching what can I do, trying everything. You're like, but I'm doing everything and it's not working. I'm going to see a naturopath and they're telling me to do this. And you get to that point where you're just feeling like you're at the end of the rope. And it's so hard. Like pulling just from my own experience, like multiply times 1,000 when that's your child. And then just like like hearing your child cry and being pain is just like the worst feeling. It's so hard. So, yeah, I just have so much compassion for you and your family because that is so difficult. But the big message here is that there's so much that you can do. So, very, very similar journey going using creams and then using steroid creams. And then, yeah, probiotics, red light therapy, removing foods, like being in nature, supporting the immune system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything I missed? Is that pretty much it in a nutshell?
We did like I think you wrote it in the bioenergetics intolerance elimination, which like when you're grasping at straws, like it's just like you go home and you're like, I think that was it, right? We're going to see improvement in 2 weeks. And you're just like, yeah. And it's not, it's like,
You get your
it is
hopes
what it
up and
is.
then you're
Like,
crushed. Oh,
we've passed it. Yeah.
yeah.
It's in the past. It's in the
Totally.
past. We tried.
Yeah, but that is the hardest part, and we hear that time and time again. Every new attempt, getting your hopes up and then just feeling like you're back at square one. But I wanna say that not everybody has such a optimistic view. So I really just want to highlight and acknowledge,
I
like,
wasn't always. I
okay.
wasn't always.
Let's be real, yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's not always easy, yeah. But just the fact that you are just forward-thinking parents and really open to looking at something different. Because I remember our first interaction, you had spoken with Laura, who's also eczema warrior, been through the program, and you get to that point, like so many other eczema warriors, if there's anybody else here watching live or watching the replay who you've done all the diets and the creams and the medications, and you've researched to the very end, and you're like, it has to be something that's genetic. And I remember you're like, I want to know what the enzyme is. There must be some sort of like genetic mutation where an enzyme's not working.
It's the Dow
It's
enzyme.
the Dow enzyme. It's the pellagra gene. It has to be. Which, look, it could be. And I don't know if I sent a message directly to
Yeah.
you or if it was through Laura, but said, look, we can do genetic testing. We would do that at the very end because no matter what, we're doing the same process where it's just foundational work, eczema healing pillars, and then doing some testing, working on the gut, building immune function, looking at what's happening in their lifestyle, and then we can go to that. And then as other conversations that we have around this, we're like, oh, okay, everything's okay now. But like the thing though is that you go to the doctor and you read online, eczema is just genetic. Oh, take an antihistamine, take a steroid, here's some immunosuppressants. So then you just think your child's dealt with a bad hand, but not realizing that genetic research is decades old, decades upon decades old, where
Yeah.
now the research is around epigenetics, which is your environment, what you do and think every day, the food you put in your mouth, the food you don't put in your mouth, the sleep you get, the sleep you don't get, chemicals around you in your house, and all that. So that has the biggest impact. And then that's what we're focusing on, surface level. And then we go deep into what's actually going on inside the body. Because also, a lot of doctors are saying, oh, you'll just grow out of it. And then, sure, I'd say
Sure.
every
Yeah.
child has a rash at some point, right? It's their immune system just getting used to different foods or, yeah, different exposures to different things. So you usually get a rash on your face when you start having new foods, and then your cells in your gut are like, okay, I've noticed that again. All right, it's safe. But you get to the point, like you said, when Luca was 2, where it just keeps
Yeah.
spreading and spreading. Like, but at this point, you
Yeah.
don't just grow out of it. It's getting worse. Yeah. So,
But
what was different when
yeah,
you came into the
you've said
program?
everything.
Yeah.
So, well, okay, so for me, I remember that conversation with Laura because I was like, if this doesn't work, I don't know. Like, I just don't know anymore.
Yeah.
So I told her, like, I was frustrated myself, and there were huge question marks with, like, when I was speaking to her, I was like, listen, like, you know, I personally, like, I have a bachelor's in science. Like, I study genetics, I
Oh, did
study
you?
biochemistry. I
Love
should
it.
know this,
Yes.
right? I'm like, I should know this. And I felt really disappointed in myself as like a mom and like I'm not going to say former scientist, but like somebody who comes from that research field. I'm not like I am a researcher, but I'm not a science researcher. So I was so upset with myself that like I couldn't find an answer. And that's what I told her. I was
Mm,
like, what is it that this program is going to offer that I don't already know? What don't we already know? Because I'll tell you what we know. We know this, and we know the red light, and we know the probiotics, and we know that he's supposed to get vitamin D. And like, okay, we live in a place where it's cold for 5 months of the year, but there are other things. Like, we gave him the supplements. What else aren't we doing? And at that point, she was like, I'm going to go have a conversation with the team and I'll come back to you because I don't want to tell you something that's not right, or because it sounds like you've done a lot. So I just want to make sure that there is a path forward for you and your family. And she came back and she was like, definitely we can help. And I was like, okay, because that sounds very definitive to me. And I'm going to jump in full force with this and just everything you tell me, I'm going to do to the T. Because we are very like, we didn't miss we didn't miss a supplement. We didn't miss every time, same day. Like, it was just like clockwork. And I remember about 3 months in being like, Danielle was our practitioner. And I was like, okay, Danielle, when are we going to see changes? She's like, be patient. And I was like, okay. And then they did. Like, then it happened so fast. And then the next like 2 months, like we went from like the rashes, and it's like the back of the knees too. It was a poor kid. Like, he couldn't wear shorts in the summer. It was so hot, scratching them open. And
yeah.
but within those like last 2 months, it was just like night and day. It just started, all the work that we had done just started to like come out onto the surface. And I think you've said this, it's like healing, it starts inside and it's like working and working and working, right? And then it shows outside, right? So you're not going to see immediate change, but that doesn't mean it's not happening on the inside.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, multiple pieces there. Firstly, the piece just on the having the expectation that you should be able to figure it out. And that's hard because that's for me too. I had finished a degree in nutritional medicine to figure out what's like how to heal eczema. And I was covered in rashes. I'm like, I should be able to figure this out. It's so frustrating. We've had naturopaths, nutritionists, dietitians, nurses come through the program, but it's just because there's so many gaps and it's the order in which you do it. And it's also having support and, like you just said there, patience and trusting the process because you can get to 3 months and be
Yeah.
like, I'm doing the things. Like, we said you guys are just the perfect members and clients. If everybody just had an open mind and just did all the things. But yeah, when you're doing them day after day and then it's a couple months in and you're like, but nothing's working. But it does take time. And then the way that we look at it and what we say to clients is that if you've been in a state of dysfunction for months, years since birth, it takes time just to rewind that. And if you're already under baseline, you're not working optimally. So it takes some time to get your nutrition levels back up, to rebuild your microbiome, to regulate your immune system. And again, you don't want to do too much too soon, especially with the sensitive little babas when there's already a lot going on. So you do have to slowly pace it in. So it, if anybody's going to tell you it's going to happen in an exact amount of time, it's not. Yeah, it's different for everybody. It, in a rare case, it could be
This,
3 months, 6 months. can be average, but if you've had like a chronic condition for a longer period of time, it can even be more depending on the amount of root causes. Yeah, healing does take time. So thank you for your patience. But what was the shift? When did you start noticing it? What was that like?
Yeah. Oh, I remember. So we were all in a walk and he was holding both of our hands, like my husband and I. And husband just looks over and he's like, his hands are so soft. And I'm like, God, they are. Like, I was like, and it just brought me so much joy in that moment because I was like, I'm not scared. I'm not worried that it's going to disappear or go away and we're suddenly have to deal with it again. Or like it wasn't like they were soft because we slapped on so much steroid and cream and stuff to just, it was like we had stopped using all of those things and just, they were hands again, like they were baby hands again. And like the skin was there and I wasn't thinking about scouring the internet for a new solution. It was just like us enjoying our walk to the park. Like it was just finally like a moment where like eczema always almost feels like this like third wheel, I guess for us it would be like fifth wheel. Yeah, it's just like this thing that like it's there. It's like always following you, but you're like, go away. I just want to enjoy this moment, and you can't when you're in it. It's just that's kind of like it's all you think about, and it's psychologically taxing for
Yeah.
everybody in the family. But yeah, that was like the moment I was like, I feel like I don't have to worry anymore. And like he still has like little flares, like he'll have like a little flare here, but we always know if that's happening, we know he's getting sick in 3 days. Like it's like and the first time it happened, I was like, oh my God, it's coming. I got this a little bit of like anxiety was coming back. And I was like, oh man, we're gonna have a flare. And oh my God, I'm gonna have to message Danielle in the middle of the night. I was gonna be like, what's going on? But it wasn't like it wasn't. It was a little flare on the knuckles. When his illness went away, it cleared up. It was like literally 3 days when he was sick and then it was gone. And we didn't do anything. We didn't change anything. Like it was just, we just lived our lives and he didn't scratch it. It wasn't bothering him to the point where he would just rip it open. Right. He was like, oh, I have a flare. Like he's starting to recognize like I'm having a flare because he's almost 3 now. And I'm like, yeah, so we're not going to scratch it. It's going to go away. And he just trusts that it's going to pass. And it's just something that he's still learning to live with, but it almost tells us like, hey, he's getting sick in 3 days. So maybe like up his vitamin D a little bit or just do just a little tweak here and there. And it helps him bridge that period and then it's over.
That's very high level. Like even for adults to get to that point, it's really hard. So that's amazing because like you said, eczema is like the third, the fifth wheel. But the way that it felt like for me, it was like just this weight, this extra weight that you were just always dragging around because every decision, every thought is just dictated by your skin, whether it's in pain, what am I going to eat? I can't sleep. I have plans. Just every decision in the day is filtered by these rashes that you have. And it's hard to explain to somebody who's never experienced it before. But yeah, it's the silver lining, and it's hard to tell somebody who's in the depths of chronic flares. Let me know. Actually, there's some questions coming
Yeah.
through. If anybody is in a chronic flare right now or has been, but if you just say, look, down the road, you'll be able to use it as a little engine light in your body to say that, yeah, something's going on when
Yeah.
you're in the peak of it. Because it like the silver lining is like your body's just giving you a little warning sign that, hey, my immune system is in overdrive. Hey, I need a little bit of love or whatever it is. And also having that shift of going into panic mode. It takes a while to rewire that as you've experienced
Yeah.
because you're like, Mayday, your nervous system is like, we cannot go back there again. But then the more that you see it, the more that you rewire that response. You're like, oh, actually, this is okay. We're just getting a little flare and he's
Yeah.
going to get sick and it'll go away. And if you have eczema, you're always going to have it. There's no cure. But if he did get another flare, now that you've been through this process, and let's say it's a bigger flare, whatever's happening in life, you say, okay, what's going on? Maybe it's something in his gut, or maybe there's a
Yeah.
lot happening at school, whatever it is. And then just understanding you have the tools, or if not, you're like, I could probably get some testing done just to see what it actually is. Like, that's just night and
Yeah.
day going from panic mode, researching till midnight. And yeah, just that whole spiral. So, on the topic, can you remember? I have some of them listed here, some of the root causes of the big eczema flares.
Yeah. So in his first year, I do think that his immune system was a little bit overwhelmed by just the number of vaccines that they give in the schedule. I think he's just, like you said, like he's always going to have eczema. He's just he has a sensitive immune system. He has a sensitive, and that might have been like something that in my pregnancy with him, could have potentially, like I had a bit of my thyroid was a bit off. So clearly there was like some hormone stuff with me that I now know. And because of Luca, like I am also healthier because we all follow a better routine and we're all healthier because of him as a family. And like my second he doesn't have allergies or like he didn't have colic, super happy baby, right? Because like we made those changes
Mm.
and like we were getting rid of all the things that just are not good for you. But in that journey, like we learned you always have to be like open to learning, right? And yeah, like he's just doing so much better now and we are as a family. Yeah. I yeah, I'm oh yeah, so root cause. Okay, here we go. Back to the I can get sidetracked. Root
I was
cause
laughing
was
about this before.
in that first year was different. And then, yeah, root cause in that first year was a little bit different. In his year two, when we started to see that, like, it started on the hands, then the cheeks, and the back of the knees, and it was just spreading and spreading. Luca had acquired, like, I guess, like a gut bug in his body. And he really had like bad immune fatigue and because we didn't understand the connection between the immune system and eczema quite as well as we do now, having gone through the program, we didn't understand like it must be like an underlying pathogen. No, it's like he's just flaring. Like he's just flaring. And we so Danielle had us go on like a gut building protocol, just trying to heal again. I feel like she knew about what was coming and she just didn't want to like put too much on us because you're like, okay, let's just like supplements. So, like she's very good like that. So it's like, just do these supplements, build his gut a little bit. And that's kind of where I came in with the question 3 months in, like, hey, was this it? And then we did the test, the GI map test. And it came back and it was like he had a Citro SPP, I think it was,
Citrobacter.
factor, which is it was one of the opportunistic overgrowth bacteria. And it was just completely like overpopulating his gut, which was causing the immune fatigue. And when it became very clear his body basically has this infection. It's like as if he was having a cold or a flu for like 6 months and his body is just completely worn down by this. So after those test results came back and like we spoke to Danielle, it started to click in that connection with the immune system and eczema for me at least, and pairing it to going back to what happened in his first year and then why potentially between year 1 and 2 things became a little bit better and he was getting stronger and his immune system was quote unquote growing up and like getting more mature. But then we crashed and burned at year 2 because we didn't know then, but because of this, again, immune fatigue that was happening in his gut. So then we dealt with that. We did like a protocol for 4 weeks to get rid of that gut bug. And again, we went back on the protocol to build his gut and the probiotics in his gut and the good bacteria to make sure that his gut is functioning and digesting as it should. And basically a week after we started that like last piece, he just completely cleared up. So that was really that was that moment where like we were holding his hand and going, this is it. This is real. This is what we
This
can
is happening.
achieve. Having understood his like understanding his immune system. And like you said, if it comes back, it's not a disaster. Like he's a little bit sick or he's potentially fighting another gut bug or whatever, but we can always go back to that protocol and repeat and get back to where we were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. I like what you said. She must have known what was going on. So this is
she must
actually, yeah.
have.
So where a lot of practitioners get it wrong, like you've experienced, they just go straight into a liver cleanse or, okay, I suspect there's a gut overgrowth and go straight into using antimicrobials. But we know working with so many people with eczema, your immune system's already just in a very fragile state. And typically there's some sort of gut lining dysfunction, whether it's intestinal permeability or whatever it is. So we need to go in, do that support, especially if you're already in a flared state. Make sure the gut lining is rebuilt to have that immune support and then going in with antimicrobials and then doing the repair. A lot of people don't do the repair after because the aim isn't just to get rid of it, it's to build an immune system and gut function to be able to do it itself. So that's a really big piece that gets missed. And then, yeah, what you were saying just about going back to the maternal health, like it's such a big piece that
Yes.
not a lot of people recognize. And I have this post where there's a lot of people saying, "What are you talking about? How could there be gut dysfunction in infants?" People hating as they do. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
it does actually go back to mother's microbiome, mother's stress level, what she was eating. And it's not to put any like blame or shame. We're all just humans trying to figure it out. But it can help you piece together, okay, it kind of makes sense now, especially if you have some thyroid dysfunction, which I think you said that you're working with Danielle. Good on that piece because yeah, that can affect your bub. And really interesting that your second one doesn't have that. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces there. And I was talking to Danielle on one of the prep calls as well with the clamping after birth. So
Yeah.
not letting,
Yeah.
yeah,
Really
yeah,
have to
yeah,
fight with them.
you do.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So if there's any mamas out there that are planning to get pregnant, the delayed clamping is really, really important because they get just like all of the nutrients from your body, they get that rush of nutrients straight into their bloodstream. So if you cut the cord, the umbilical cord too soon, you miss that. So you can speak to the midwives or the doctors or whoever is there and delay it. So, so, so important and makes a huge difference too. So yeah, there's just compromised immune function, gut overgrowth, and the thing is that if you just put steroid creams on it, cool, the inflammation, you bring it down and you cover it up, but there's still a fire underneath. And so that's another thing that I really wanted to touch on. If there are any mamas here or anybody who's planning on having kids or anybody who has friends that have kids that have eczema, or even if you're an adult with eczema, there's no shame with using steroids. Just make sure you use them responsibly and make sure you're using the lowest dose needed and not putting it in highly vascular places, ideally, and then not using it for longer than a week because you can get topical steroid withdrawal. And it's devastating to see that happen with a child. So, yeah, no fear, but just be very, very cautious about how you use them. And also, like understanding with conventional medicine, that medical field is trained to prevent disease. So there's a huge gap
Yeah.
between, yeah, just preventing and treating disease and also the preventative medicine and what we're doing and looking at the body as a whole. And then their tools are medications. So again, not hating on them because that's just the tool that they have to use. But there's like everything that you said, so much that you could do in between to
Yeah.
help manage. Can you share some little tips and tricks that have been helpful for Luca and his skin?
Yeah. So I know for like most people in the protocol I talked about, it's pretty straightforward actually. But there's like you said, like it depends on how much healing you want to do, right? I always think of his eczema now. I'm like, So we're building, right? Like we're in our building phase because we understand the underlying thing was dealt with and we're going up. We'll fall back a little bit sometimes, but we're going to keep moving up. And so the important thing is to build those things into your lifestyle. It's not so you can stop half, like you don't have to do all the things. See morning sun and it's like you don't have to do all the things, but it's important to keep trying and keep building those things in because the more you build them in, if you miss one day or a whole week or whatever it is, it's not going to completely throw you off and send you into a new rash state because you'll have built in so many positive things and keep doing it day to day that you're just going to get to this point where you're so strong that almost like nothing can turn you back to where you that really bad point, which is like what I think like most people are afraid they're going to fall back into that awful state. I know for me, like it is for Luca, that I'm afraid he's going to fall back into that state. I'm no longer afraid, but I was when I would see like a little bit of flaring, I would just be like, it's happening again. Like you said, that anxiety. So what we've like built into his day is really just we just practice it as a family so we don't forget, right? It's like get up in the we got this little choo-choo train table thing that we put in like our mud room where it's like the first sun shines, right? So we kind of just try and get him outside first thing in the morning. He's a toddler, he's got energy, right? And he's going to be in the sun and then we give him the supplements that he's currently on, which is just like the GI restore, like it's the leaky gut closing a supplement, I call it, and then layered in the probiotic. So he can have that with his like warm milk in the morning outside and like for breakfast, right? And as you build in these like habits, it's like he gets used to them, right? And he asks for it. He like reminds you, he's like, oh, I didn't get my milk today, right? Or it didn't. And so those are nice things that we've built every morning. So it's like you almost like you can't forget, right? And if you don't forget it, like if it's in your daily, it's your lifestyle, how you're doing your life, then you can't really fall back on the rashes and the full blown immune dysfunction again, right? And then we make sure to be outside as much as possible. We've built in, we're trying to do like a monthly trip, sorry, a 1 month trip to like a warmer place during our winter here because we really value natural vitamin D on our builds in our bodies. So there's the supplements you can take. Those are really good for people who are in cold climates, and vitamin D is so important for eczema. And we also take it, but it's so much better if you can just see a little bit of sun. Like the sun is just so important for building the right biome on your skin and giving you vitamin D and so that's like an annual thing that we're trying to build in for our family for him. But the idea came through supporting him in his eczema journey, and then yeah, like those little day-to-day stuff that like you build in that really even kids like need nervous system regulation, right? If he makes a mistake or he'll spill his milk or whatever, something will happen. It's just like, just right. Like it really impacts his nervous system if like the way that you respond and the way you're calm. So like practicing those things is really helping his nervous system, his immune system stay regulated and stay in that like state of healing where we can just keep going, right? So yeah, those are, I mean, it sounds very simple, but it's like, I think a lot of people fall apart because they're so busy. Everyone's so busy, but it's just 15 minutes in the day. Like we try and, yeah.
Yeah, so if we would have said at the very beginning, when you are deep in your researching phase, like, what's this program going to give me that I don't already know? If we said, oh, create a daily ritual, what would you have said? I already know
Yeah.
that. I already know I should do that.
Yeah, it wasn't the right one though. Like it was,
Yes.
we really needed the hand holding. No, but we really needed
Yes.
the hand holding because even like it's like you think so much, and then it's like okay, but it's not currently working. Let's take a step back and like start to figure out like what's actually going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah,
What
that
how
was
we can we integrate this properly?
yeah. That's it, because even at the very beginning, I'll ask people, I'll say, "We'll go through the eczema healing pillars: mindset, sleep, nutrition, digestion, movement, fun, and connection." And then I was like, "Okay, who here is gonna be like, tell me something I don't know? I need to do the task. I need to do the supplements. I need to do a diet." But
Yeah,
everybody on the other side, that's it. That's it. And exactly like you said, it's building that foundation so you have more resiliency. So if you do get a
yeah,
little flare because you're sick, maybe there's a lot going on in life, whatever it is, then that's just a little signal that goes away instead of it just continuously to spread and spread and spread. So that's the difference. And that's the key for long term management. Beautifully put. I just want to, there was a comment here. Layla, are you still online? So Layla had said, "This is Layla. My husband Zach is in the program, and I can relate to everything you're saying from a loved one's point of view. While he's not my child, having a partner who is suffering is so much, can be so hard being in the medical field. I can't help him." Like, really appreciative for you to
mm,
share the story. So we always focus on what it's like for eczema warriors, but this is such a nice conversation because it's not just the person struggling, which is obviously really hard, but everybody around, because you're limited with what you can do and how you can help. And it does affect everybody around you. Yeah, a little shout out for another loved one going through a similar process.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
All right. So if there's
And
anybody
like
on that has any questions,
we
oh,
learned
sorry,
so much.
you go. There's a little delay. You go.
I just wanted to say we learned so much in the program about you post about it all the time and like the inflammation bucket. It's really as you heal, like it gets emptier and emptier, right? And
Mhm.
you're able to handle. It's not that you're never like I was coming from a point where it's like with his food allergies too. I'm like, we're never gonna make it through. Like we can't travel. He's allergic to wheat. Like wheat isn't everything. He's allergic to some foods that are like quite literally in everything. And it, it's just we learned that like it's not forever and the healing will continue. So that's really like that bucket. Just think about the bucket and it's getting emptier and you're gonna moving forward. Yeah.
Exactly. The bucket analogy is so simple, but it is so effective, especially if you're having a flare. And then you can go back and say, "Oh, look at everything that was filling up that bucket." Like, that was a lot. And then when you're just thinking, "Okay, right now, what's filling up the bucket?" Oh, okay, there's, it's wintertime. We're not getting as much vitamin D. It gets a little bit drier. Everybody's getting sick. Maybe there's a little bit of stress. You're like, okay, so it makes sense that there's a little bit of a rash. So you don't go into panic mode. Oh, what are a couple things topically that were helpful for little Luca?
Topically, yeah. I mean, so tallow, I do think is a great
Mm,
moisturizer. Right now, I think we're just using like a Avena zinc oxide. Yeah,
yeah,
zinc oxide helps the weeping eczema. It's such a good, like your skin needs a barrier when it's weeping.
yeah,
And zinc
yeah.
oxide was really the thing that helped us get off the steroid. We were using steroid to like sparingly to try and help it not the inflammation come down, not get infected. But we stopped it because zinc oxide was almost like more effective at that point. Your skin does get like a resistance to steroid. And if you keep using it and like that picture of his hand, like it was, we had been using steroid at that point. Like that was with steroid use. It becomes just resistant to reacting to the steroid anymore and you need to use something else. So the zinc oxide really helped us bridge that gap. And then as a moisturizer, like a daily moisturizer, the tallow sort of mixed in with that. But really like, yeah, the inflammation does have to, as you mentioned, like come down from the inside. Tallow as a moisturizer on top.
Yeah. Yeah, the zinc oxide across the board is so helpful during the weepy phase. And then tallow, that's the same actually for me as well when I'm in those phases. And then sometimes just nothing at all. You know, every like my brain is still programmed from when I was little. It's just like moisturizer, moisturizer if it's dry. And then every time I put moisturizer, then it makes me more red and itchy. I was like, I know this.
Yeah,
Oh.
don't go crazy with the
Yeah.
moisturizers. Yeah.
Yes. Because with the moisturizer too, most moisturizers are actually more alkaline and your skin naturally is more acidic. So it changes the pH of your skin, and then opportunistic bacteria actually thrive in a more alkaline environment. So it's just, yeah, you can get caught in that cycle. All right. So if there's any questions, I have just a couple quick questions for Zarana, but if anybody has any questions for me or Zarana, pop it in the chat. And my last question for you, Zarana, is if you had to give any words of wisdom for any mamas or daddies, or even if it's like young kids listening that have eczema, what would your advice be for them?
It's hard when you're going down the rabbit holes, but you really I think healing is possible for everybody. Just keep For us, this program really worked. This program was truly like life changing in learning how to, I'm going to say, manage his immune system, because it's almost not, it's like eczema is just the little, it doesn't become the thing that's like overtaking. It's understanding what's going on underneath. So for us, this program was really helpful and in helping us understand that. And the piece of advice I would give is trust your gut, because if you feel like it's not working, like I always knew, I feel like I always knew with every new thing, I feel like this is not going to work. Like we haven't solved, we haven't figured out what the thing is. Like that's not the thing. It's like the red light therapy. It's another, just like a band-aid. I'm going to say it's a band-aid. And it can be really helpful, right? But those things happen. Those are later things that are when you're already in a good state, and like there are things you can add on. But if it's not, it doesn't feel like the right thing in that moment, it's probably not. We found the program, and when we found like the gut bug and his immune dysfunction and all of that stuff, we uncovered it. It really, for me, felt, I was like, this is right. Like, I'm like, this is right. And it makes sense. And this feels like we're on the path now. Whereas like before, it was always like, this is just another thing that's going to deal with it for a week and then it's going to come back. And it doesn't feel like we're really helping him. So I think that's my main piece of advice is like, if it doesn't feel right, it's not. It's not.
Yeah. That's a good piece of advice because the whole aim is all these different tools. And you've spoken about, yeah, there's the red light, there's different creams, and doing your morning sunlight and all of that. And those are all great. So it's like the whole idea is to collect all these tools, practice them, but then know when to use them. So those are all
Yeah.
great things to use if you are getting a flare or the presentation looks like this, but then also digging deeper because, like you said, like eczema, I always say eczema isn't just a skin condition. And there's haters on the internet being like, go get a degree or you're not a doctor. And I'm like, yeah, it presents on the skin. And yes, there can be barrier dysfunction, true, but it's inflammation inside the body. And like you said, it's a hyperimmune response in the body. It's really based off of your immune system being activated by and then 70-80% of your immune system's in your gut. Always, it always leads to the gut to look at first. And there can be
Yeah.
other factors as well. So yeah, it's just understanding that it is coming from within and it's immune related. And then also having different tools to use at different times. Yeah, that's spot on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, really, thank you for just being open. And yeah, like Danielle, I've seen Danielle and Mandy pop in. They're like, I want to come and watch after working with you. But it's like they did everything together as a family, which is so beautiful because then it also benefits everybody's health. And then also because it's hard to implement changes and just expect your little toddler to do it, especially when you're in that 2 to 3 year
Yeah.
old. I have a 2 year old turning 3 too, so I know what it's like. So
Yeah.
it really is important to do it all together, try and make it fun. So yeah, the way that you managed it and rolled it out with your family, being open to it, being patient, even though sometimes it's hard, is made the biggest difference. Well done with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys.
Pleasure. So we have a couple questions, which we've kind of
Sure.
already answered. So if anybody has any others, pop them below. But one was the best oil to use for moisturizing. So Zoe had mentioned tallow. is so great across the board. I mean, there's so many different companies doing it now. It used to be very rare and you have to make it on your own like 10 years ago. So now it's easy to get. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like kombucha and bone broth. I'd have to tell clients to like go buy your own bones, go buy cabbage, and now it's just easy, which is great. The tallow across the board with everything patch test on your skin and whatever you can use at a specific time of your flare because it will change. Like depending on if you're in the red inflamed phase, if you're in the oozy phase, if you're in the dry phase, different things can work. And as your skin changes, different creams can react. But if you notice that a cream is making your skin itchy after you put it on, well, A, check to see if your shower is too hot. And then if you put it on and then it's red and itchy after, then don't do it because you're just going to tear up your skin. So patch test it, but across the board, tallow for the win with a lot of people. And then the other question was, will a 12-year-old child grow out of eczema? So we kind of touched on that one before. So rashes are just normal, right? Mainly in little kids because you're just getting used to this new environment, the world, and especially now because we have so many toxins in our environment. But rashes will come up and will go down. That's just a matter of life. But if in a 12-year-old, if they've been there for a longer period of time and they're not going away, so I was saying that's the engine light in the body saying, hey, there's something going on. Our immune system is telling us something that we need to address. So there's so much that you can do. So if you do need support, we have so many resources on this page, or you can chat with our team as well. All right. Any other questions before we hop off? Yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to you. Luca's just so lucky to have such loving and forward thinking parents. And when you were describing just walking together, holding his hands, both of you holding his hands and having that moment, I was just like, such a cute family. But just so, so happy. Like just being able to be present, like with your family, like being outside and just those small little moments, like that's life and that's what it's all about. So I'm so happy that you took a leap of faith, even though you thought that you had tried everything and joined the program. And yeah, that we're at this point. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your journey.
Yeah, of course. It was such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm always willing to answer any questions and talk about our specifics. Yeah.
Nice. Well, if anybody does have any specific questions after we post this as a replay, comment below. I know Zoe's always around in social media. And I saw your post. We want to come to Australia and meet you all. So if you ever come to
Yeah.
Australia, let us know.
We're planning that. We will.
Yeah.
We will. I'll message you.
Yeah. Well, your winter is our summer. So that can line up in your family
Yeah.
plans.